Hello and welcome to Tank Talk. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Kason.
We're your podcast commanders from Wealth Battle. Today, we're chatting with a wealth battler, Nathan Martins, to discuss the tactics and tools in his arsenal to overcome the obstacles in the wealth battle in his life. Nathan, welcome to Tank Talk.
Hi, thanks for having me. Today is going well. Had a great meeting this morning and learned quite a few new things about property and all that, and I'm ready to do this interview. It's exciting.
Well, I thought today we'd talk about your financial journey a little bit. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Is this something that you thought about much in life? Did you think about money and finances and budgeting and investing? Is that something that was on your radar?
No, not at all. Actually, yeah, I like to use, I like to say, hey, I had a lot of fun in my 20s from what I can remember. There really wasn't a conversation in my mind about like that I was ever going to have dollars stored up or money or investments or property or anything, or even a retirement for that matter.
Yeah, you said something to me once that you're the guy that stands around the campfire at 11 p.m., not the guy that sits on Zoom. And here you are online. Tell us a little bit about where you started and what piqued your interest to start going down this journey.
I would start in my teens. I as soon as I was able to, I got a job. And I worked a few hours a week and managed to get some extra spending cash, gas money, that type of thing. And it always was gone as soon as, before the next paycheck came around, of course. In my 20s, I joined the Conservation Corps and worked long hours for a year for the state. Then I worked for the state, Fish and Wildlife. And all throughout this whole situation, there was really never much left over at the end, before the next paycheck came in. That's just kind of how things went. And as time went on, it started bothering me, the fact that I didn't really see how this was going to work out. I had a state retirement fund that had basically nothing in it, maybe, a few months worth of groceries or something. So I just took this stance that that was it. That I didn't care anymore. I was just going to work and work and work and work. And then when I got old and couldn't do the work that I was doing anymore, I'd find something that I could do. Or maybe there'd be some inheritance in there or something that would make it so that I felt some security and safety. That was essentially just a lie that I like to tell myself, so I didn't have to think about it. It was pretty much like, all right, sweet. Had no idea how to money, as Kason would put it. I've heard him say that before. Then I've been married for a while, for 10 years. My wife and I have been together actually for 20 years. She pursued a career path and ended up being really successful in that area and procuring a job for the state, making good money and making good dollars, that is. And we got some sense of security there, and it afforded me the time to first be a stay-at-home dad for 3 years and start my own business. Well, become a contractor, that is, in the construction industry, and take the time necessary to find out whether I wanted to do that or not. I started seeing the potential for success. There was definitely a lot that led into me actually deciding that this was going to work out and it's going to be great. Then I met you, Lisa, and ended up coming and joining Wealth Battle. And through joining Wealth Battle, I discovered all kinds of stuff that I did not understand before. I'd say that one of the biggest things was like the savers track. I'd been on the savers track my whole life. It's like save a little bit of money, buy something, gone. Save a little bit of money, buy something, gone. And that seemed like, this should make sense. I should be able to save money at some point, until I realized that it's constantly losing its value. And that was the trick that I didn't really understand. Was that, if I aim for 10 grand, well, 10 grand in 1 year isn't 10 grand that it was last year. So I stepped out of that and said, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. You got to have some liquidity. You got to have some cash on hand. So opened up a policy with Penn Mutual, created an opportunity fund, whole life insurance policy, with Penn Mutual, and started taking my dollars and giving each of them a job, where every single time I get something in income, invoice from a client, I take the dollars and say, this is going here, this is going here, and this is going here. And it could be cash savings, just a little bit, but I think it's important. It's just that now, like, now the doors are opened up for me to say that it's like I can actually go out and mess around a little bit with property, or I could go and start another business or something, and have that capital there sitting ready to be used in those, if I see an opportunity that might make us some cash flow. I mean, that's pretty much where we are now. And yeah, if I were to go back in my 20s, I'd say get your head out of your ass and stop doing these things that are spinning your wheels. You're just spinning your wheels all day long, every day, and with no thought to the future whatsoever. And I don't think I would listen to myself if I know myself. If the future self came back, I'd probably laugh at him. That's the point, though, is that it's that if it can be delivered in a way like Wealth Battle does that can actually show somebody a possibility for themselves, then that's the ticket. Because you can tell people all day long that they need to use their dollars appropriately, and they're not going to listen unless they can see what's going to happen for them. So.
Yeah. So what I got from that was that it was really a mindset shift. There was something in you that had you understand what you were doing and what was possible that had you take different actions. But I think had you stored up a big pot of money and your mindset hadn't shifted along with you, you couldn't see or take advantage of opportunity. So do you know what it was in that mindset that shifted in a way that it sounds like you included your wife and your family in this as well?
Yeah, I'd say that debt is one of the things that I refused to be in debt for anything, no matter what. I mean, we had a couple credit card debts that was literally like, oh, let's buy a mattress at 0% APR for 3 years, and then the last month that we have that debt, let's pay it off all at once, because we could have paid it off right away. We just chose not to. A small car loan paid off as rapidly as possible. Student loans paid off as rapidly as possible. I did not want to mess around with that. That was instilled in me by my folks. I remember really clearly. I'd beg, can we go on a vacation? Let's go to Disneyland. Let's go to wherever. And they would say, we can't do that right now because that's outside of our means, and we don't go on vacation using debt, which of course is very smart, right? That's consumer debt. It's that my folks didn't really utilize debt much at all. They pretty much didn't do that. So understanding that not all debt is bad if it's arranged properly and for the right purposes, or for purposes that are going to end up with cash flow later from something, then it's okay. And in that sense, you get to stick it to the banks a little bit here and there with a low interest rate. And now in an environment where the interest rate's like massively larger than it was, for example, when I took out a cash out refi on the house that we have, to access those dollars to be able to use them for something else. So that was the mindset shift that was the biggest thing, just because it opened the doors for possibilities that weren't there before. I didn't have the cash or the capital sitting there to buy a piece of property outright debt free. And so I just said, well, can't do that. And now I'm like, oh, I can do that. There's no problem there.
Yeah, that was a shift to how can I do something? And what I heard was like, not all debt is bad. Some debt can be bad, but debt can also be leverage, and timing also matters, which means having the knowledge to know what's happening in the world and when to move, when to take advantage of it, when it makes sense, and maybe when it doesn't.
Definitely. Yeah, and add in a spicy dose of budgeting, and all of a sudden you can start realizing that there's so many, what's the term? It's the fill thy holy bucket, right? Like you got all these little bits and pieces dripping out of there, and you're like, where's the dollars going? I don't get it. I don't understand where it's going. And then just some really quick observation, and it's like, oh, maybe I should cut back my grocery trips. Maybe I should not do that thing. Maybe I should not buy that product that I don't really need at all. Or maybe I shouldn't spend any money for the next 6 weeks, period, because I'm really, really struggling here, and also, with leverage and debt and all that, it's another thing is just like not being afraid to take the steps forward to generating larger income. I'm not stuck in that rut of I have to receive dollars from someone. Like I have to go work for somebody that I can get out there and actually generate income in several different ways. And so there's a little bit of security there for sure.
Well, and isn't this very different from whenever you were in your 20s where you said you had the job, you were making an income, but it's like you look at the bank at the end of the day and it's like, I spent it all. Where did it all go? So what was the primary shift there to get you from, the save up, spend it all, save up, spend it all kind of mindset to where you are now? What was the shift?
Yeah, so the shift, recently is definitely budgeting. That came hand in hand, of course, with nice. That came hand in hand with having with being self-employed. First of all, it's like I didn't want to take anything out of my account when I was self-employed and put it into our personal account. It's like, whoop, not doing that until it's like pay myself as little as possible, and then discovering. Like for example, profit first method. It's like I'm taking 50%, like right now, and shoving it into account, and I'm not going to spend that. I'm going to point it at things, and that was a huge shift. But yeah, in the 20s, like there was no concept of this at all. It seemed unmanageable. I don't think it was. I was paying relatively low rent. I don't think I was spending more than a third of my income on food and housing. Transportation is a little bit of an outlier, but how would I know if I'd never budgeted at the time? I don't have the data. I do know that the rent was relatively low back then, and that we would always find places that were low rent and be able to do the things we wanted to do. And it's not that we didn't save dollars, and it's not that we didn't buy things that we needed. We could buy cars and we could buy things. It's just that it didn't amount to anything at the end of the day. All the things that we bought were liabilities, not assets. They were all liabilities, at least up until I started buying precious metals, which that's another shift. That was another shift. Prior to Wealth Battle was becoming aware of, poor man's gold and being like, I can actually go and buy a few ounces of this at a time. And I know it's going to hold its value one way or another. And becoming aware of that was also a big shift for me. Because that whole, the precious metals crew, they're all fairly anti-establishment. So it made for a good transition right into Wealth Battle, basically, which I'm not calling Wealth Battle anti-establishment necessarily. It's just
it's more like Aikido of the establishment. How do you take what exists and work with it for your advantage rather than trying to go up against the banksters and governments of the world? But one thing that you said I picked up on, which was, how could I know unless I had built out that budget? It seems like a lot of people, they go through and they develop their financial habits without really understanding what are they doing or why are they doing it. It's kind of like suiting up for a road trip, hopping in the car and just like, okay, where are we going? Somewhere that way. Like they don't have a turn by turn. They don't have even like a backup printout or anything like that. That's always interesting to hear kind of the difference in clarity that people have whenever they start giving dollars jobs rather than, let's find out where the chips may fall. Let's determine this through chance and live through chance. So I want to play a little game before I turn it back over to Lisa. I'm going to give you a word, and then you have up to 3 words to describe whatever you think of that word. Okay? Up to 3 words, no more. So the first word is budget. Let's start there.
Income, expense, liability.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, let's define income.
Currency, procurement, time.
Currency, procurement, time. Okay, cool. And one last one. I heard you earlier say the idea of a cash flowing asset. So cash flows in 3 words or less, according to Nathan. Go.
Passive, time sensitive, excess.
Okay, we'll allow 4. Right, Lisa?
It was hyphenated. It was a hyphenated word.
Sorry. It was hyphenated. Yeah, come on.
Well, dash in, dash that, dash case, dash. I think, dash.
So, Nathan, it sounds like you were just the guy who would do what you did. You'd make some money, you'd spend some money, you just kind of like live day to day. But now that you have some understanding, your behavior has changed. I see that you're online. Do you feel like you're in a position now that when people come to you, you have something to offer them? Like there's something that you can share about your financial journey, about why it matters to know any of this in their own lives and the empowerment it has given you in your own life?
Yeah, for sure. This is something that's coming up regularly. If you were going to ask me what I'm up to, for example, it's just in a nutshell, it's generation of community or support of community. And that's another thing is that, you know, in the 20s, there's always everybody's available there. They'd love to come and have a party, or you can go meet them at the bar, or you can go camping or hiking or whatever. But when you need something for real, like let's get something done or I'm in trouble, people kind of vanish because they don't have anything either. And so they're like, oh, I can't help. Sorry. Now, the community that we've gotten together is available for each other, for each person. Did I say that right? It's totally screwed up language. But yeah, I think you get what I mean. It's that each person is within reason available to help out financially, help out physical labor, child care, whatever, anything you can think of. And I'd like to grow that. So that influence that I have right now is becoming pretty apparent. I think it ties in with being associated with Wealth Battle and seeing that community work together. Very specific target goal is like, let's talk budgeting, let's talk dollars, let's talk finance and life hacks in that area. You know, a few spicy memes once in a while. And it's really that just having that stance and my friends, having known me for a long time, are seeing a shift, seeing something alter in me. It's not a change. It's totally something new. And that's inspiring. And it's been declared by my group of friends that it's inspiring, and people are excited about moving forward with projects and workshops and all that. So yeah, you know, ultimately, some of these folks that I know are already really, really adept. They're really fastidious, you know, and they don't live frivolously, and they do invest in property and other things. Some folks don't do any of that yet and are renting and have high expense to income ratios and are getting slayed by inflation right now. And that conversation has started. I just held a workshop this last weekend with regard to that, and I only had 4 attendees out of 17 invites. It's working, and there were people that didn't show up that were like, "Oh my God, that sounds fantastic! I want to be at the next one. When are you holding it?" So it's more of a lead time issue, you know, there. But did that answer your question about what's shifted, what's changed, am I providing inspiration to others around me with the new knowledge that I'm getting? Yeah, the answer is absolutely. So.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you probably were like that dude that people would love to hang out with, but not necessarily come to for advice on their finances. And now you have a really good grasp on it and you're doing it in life. So I'm also curious. So you mentioned that you have an opportunity fund. We call it bulletproof banking. It's a whole life insurance policy. Has that opened up anything for you in terms of things that you might want to do in life, like giving you access to, like, hey, if we want to invest in something, or if we want to buy a property, or if the world comes to an end, we have a buffer. Like, is there something about having that has helped give you peace of mind, or what has that brought to your life?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the security aspect of it, because, you know, now my son is going to turn 5 in just a few days, and you know, prior to having a child, I was never too concerned about me or even my wife. You know, we're adept people. We're in great shape. We're capable. We can do dirty, dangerous, and difficult jobs. You know, I always figured that we even if we had to struggle by, we'd be able to do that. It wouldn't be the end of the world. We'd continue to live. With the child, of course, anybody that has kids knows that, like, the minute that the child comes into the world, you are completely responsible for that life form. And you have the opportunity to create something for them for the future that they can get and say, my mom and dad kicked ass. They handled what they had to handle to get this done, and now I have this thing. And if you do it in such a way as not to hand it off as like, here you go, you deserve this, but you do it in a way where there is actually an understanding, like developing the financial knowledge so that the child doesn't think he's just getting something someday, that he sees what it took to set that up and what it took to earn it, then you can impart that value system upon that work ethic and not taking things for granted. So the policy itself has really helped in that area, because should something happen, he's square with dollars, at least. You know, I wouldn't say with wealth necessarily. And additionally, if things go wrong, if we have a disaster, or if we do see some cool investment, just something small, maybe it's with a group of friends, then we can put something into that in hopes that it'll make a return for us over time.
Yeah, I guess what another thing that I'm thinking of is it's easy to look at other people and say, they're doing X, Y, and Z. What am I doing? Or, hey, people are jumping at things. And from what I've heard from you, it has helped you be in a position where you can participate, right? It's not just, it's my wife and I, and we'll do the gritty things if we have to. It's like, we have a choice now. And it might look different than what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, and that's something else I've definitely learned, not to compare myself, especially in the area of finance, with other people. I'm like, I have this, and this other person has this and this, and the relationship is zero. There's no relationship whatsoever there. So yeah, taking away the comparison itself is a great way to go. It's horrible to sit out there in the world and compare yourself, and that's what a lot of people do, and that's where the term "keeping up with the Joneses" comes from, right? It's like let's go buy that extra thing because so and so has it over there. It's like, well, is that wise for your income? Probably not. I don't think I'd do that. Like, just because they can afford it, and how do you know that they can? They might be mortgaged to the hilt with 7 credit cards freaking maxed out. You don't know. So yeah, in terms of being able to participate in an environment where there are things to do, it's really exciting and liberating. It opens up the whole world that just was not there before at all. Just didn't exist. It's like, that's over there, I'm over here.
Nathan, I'm kind of curious, what was the most surprising thing that you've learned or implemented since you've started up with Wealth Battle in the realm of personal or business finance?
Let's see. The answer is not on the ceiling.
Well, it could be. Somebody did write Gullible up there, though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. The most surprising thing.
Yeah, the thing you weren't expecting. The thing that you heard and you're like, huh? What are you talking about? What? That's a thing?
Well, geez, I guess one small thing. It's not the most surprising thing. I'll talk through this for a second. The most surprising thing is a difficult one because I'm just not. I don't know. There's been a lot of small surprises. I don't know that there's been any major, huge surprises. Discovering the meaning of money was a big one, and not understanding prior to that there is a very, very important distinction between money and currency. If there's nothing else, there's at least one thing, and that one thing led me to the understanding that that my goal was not to save. That was not what the goal was, at least currently in this climate. The goal was to use dollars to procure assets of some kind. And also the difference between assets and liabilities, which was a discovery from reading Robert Kiyosaki. Although I wouldn't have read Robert Kiyosaki probably had it not been for Wealth Battle. So yeah, there's been some amazing discoveries vicariously because of things that people bring to the table, discussions, topics that people in the Discord channel, for example, go down, reading articles, books. I don't know. Like I said, the most surprising is a little bit.
Okay. Well, so to revise it, what would you say are some of the little things that you've uncovered, little nuggets of wisdom or knowledge that you find valuable? Yeah,
I'll go back to the Savers track. There's the Debtors track, the Savers tracks, and the Wealth Battlers track. That was a cool graphic that really brought it home for me. I needed to see that for it to make sense, which once again put me on the track of not being a saver specifically. There's the understanding of money and what it means. There's budgeting, of course, and understanding like what the difference is between keeping, for example, a checkbook or just kind of keeping tabs on what's happening and actually targeting a budget to something like you're talking about Kaysen many times, like using it as a GPS or saying my destination is here and all other things are subject to that destination. And that was really cool as well. Really, really eye-opening. And also in business area, I don't really have a lot of expenses in business. Most of it is just purchasing materials for clients and then they go away on the job site. I don't need to purchase lots of items or tools or properties or storage facilities or any of those things. So budgeting is really pretty straightforward for that. Had I not discovered what it means to budget in that area, then I would not be able to function as well as I am functioning in terms of being a contractor.
Now I punt to Lisa. This is a segue to Lisa.
Lisa looks like she's ready for the catch.
It had me wondering if this isn't valuable because who knows, but it sounds like this knowledge actually allowed you to keep going down the path of your own business. Because what I've seen is oftentimes especially in something that you're doing, there's lumpy income. And so if you have responsibility and you have lumpy income and you're unaware of your expenses, a lot of times the fix we think of is like, well, I'll just make more money, which means you have to put yourself out there and do more work and do more work and do more work. But that's not really the life that we want. So do you have a sense that you have a little bit more freedom to have time at home and to work on your property and spend time with family and work without having to stress about where you should be allocating your time because you have an actual idea of your budget?
Absolutely. Just the procurement of income alone and understanding that, like, I don't necessarily have to go out and grind and grind and grind all day long every day. And even if I did, it's already pretty clear to me that that would result in like a significant amount of gas expenditure and materials that probably would go to waste. I wouldn't be able to recover cost in those areas. And so really it's like, yeah, I could procure more income, but my most valuable asset is my time. And if I procure more income in the area that I'm doing, I am going to just destroy my time. I will not be at home. I won't be able to handle this. The property is pretty difficult to manage here as it is. And if I were to cut into that with 50 hours a week on the job site, it's half an hour drive there, half an hour drive back, plus trips to the store, plus all the other things. I'd be done at the end of the day. And it's not going to necessarily pan out that results in me making it ever. Like, that's not what's going to help me make it, if you know what I mean, which, we never make it, but it's that I can steady myself in those moments where I have lumpy income. I get a check and I say, this is going to be it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. We can manage that. Tighten belt, stay home, do things on the property, hang out with the child, with the boy, and then pick up the next job.
Yeah, so one of the things I've also got from you is you are less reliant on a lot of commodities like food, right? If you grow some of your own food, that's pretty impactful in an inflationary environment. Have you seen a difference in your life based on supplying everyday items yourself?
Well, there's an obvious reduction in food costs, necessary grocery store visits, which is a reduction in fuel usage, and we get that time once again. And that's interesting you bring that up, Lisa, because at first, when I first was really, getting a handle on what Wealth Battle was and what was happening, I had this concept that I think I told Kason this long ago, a year ago or something, about reducing my dependency on the American dollar. And that was like that was what I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Now, I don't know that that's where I'm necessarily at now, because I don't really feel it because I have a dependency necessarily beyond certain things. It's that handling my own stuff, knowing that I can fix the things on my house. So I don't have to hire a contractor. Obviously, that's a good thing. That means I need the time. I can grow some food, and it does actually pan out. We bake our own bread, and we grow our own food, can all kinds of stuff. We try and purchase meat well ahead of time, which, once again, the budgeting thing, it's like, let's buy meat once per year instead of 52 times per year. And that right there, you just got to think about, it's not about the dollar savings at the point of purchase, it's the time savings associated with it that's really the biggest thing. And yeah, once again, that was an amazing discovery actually too. Just knowing that I wasn't trying to reduce my dependency on the dollar. I was just trying to make it work for me so that I had more time and that I had more food. And if I were to just assert something, I guess it's that a lot of folks in the current climate that are dealing with a high expense column to income ratios are really struggling because they don't actually have $1,000 that they can go out and buy food once every 2 months at Costco. They have $40 or they have $60, and they got to go to the grocery store 4 or 5 times a week, and something ends up in the cart that probably shouldn't be in there, and it all gets lost in the wash without accounting for everything. And that's been a big thing for us. I have yet to do any actual data on what the reduction is for us in food, having dealt with meat and canning the way we do. We raise chickens every year. We usually raise a couple pigs. We usually buy half a cow. That'll be something that we do here very, very soon. Take all those inputs and those costs that we have put into those things, and then try and figure out and see if there is a way to discover what we've saved, what we have shaved off of the necessaries in terms of expenditures. if that makes sense.
That's amazing. I got like how many layers there are to this conversation, and it's cool to see your exploration, I guess. Do you have anything that you feel like you have this burning desire to share that you haven't shared yet?
Well, I got to say that it's been a real experience being a budgeting captain, despite the fact that I'm not like the most absolute amazing guru with YNAB or anything else, or really have very many answers for anybody, or just being there to facilitate the situation and have the conversation move forward and have people thinking about that week in, week out, so that there is some sense of accountability in each person's life and what it is that they're out to do in the world and what they're going to discover, and being able to provide that forum for discussion is really great. I've really enjoyed it, and I have not missed a meeting since it started.
And for those that aren't super in the know, every other week we have, first and third Tuesdays, let's be more precise, we have budget company meetings where people get together and answer questions like, how is budgeting? What do I need now? What's the number one thing I intend to accomplish between now and next meeting? And Nathan heads up one of those particular groups. So Nathan, in the time that you've spent kind of leading your small group of budgeting comrades, what would you say is like the thing that you've gotten out of it? Because I know that other people get things out of it because it's the accountability and it's kind of learning the skills from somebody who already has the skills. But what have you gotten out of it personally?
I think, let's see, on the website, there's like, it pops up and I'm right there, like he's plastered all over the front of the website. Yeah, it's like I talked about sounding board or something, and it's like, yeah, that's great. I like the sounding board. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that is given for me is just the ability to facilitate a situation, stay on point, and keep people in a conversation moving forward, recognizing each other's needs and where they are in the world, and creating the world of possibility in there, like having all those people say that there is a discovery, that they can move forward. Each person can move forward towards what they would like to achieve or accomplish in the world of finance for themselves, despite the fact that they're huge. We're up against just a freaking juggernaut, and so watching these folks that, basically it seems like we're powerless, and I've discovered that we're definitely not powerless, certainly not with the community aspect of it. And so keeping that conversation moving forward with those people is really is the most amazing thing for me. It's helped.
You proudly said that you're a budgeting captain. It's pretty great. Heartwarming, in fact.
Budgeting captain. Yeah. Yeah, and that extends into a lot of areas. It extends beyond just like the numbers and the dollar signs on your screen. It's really like, what are you out to do? What are you up to? And it's extended out into, into my physical circle friends, not my Zoom company. I don't know how to say this. The virtual crowd versus the in-person crowd. Just the facilitating, once again, like living in that world where people tend to get off topic pretty quickly with all kinds of stuff, no matter what you're doing. And if I now can create an environment where people stay on topic for more than 46 seconds or something, then we start to get things done and people start to actually see possibilities for themselves and think down that line rather than just like jumping to the next thing. So those conversations have been going with my group of friends as well. Like I was talking about earlier, just being available for each other to get things done when the time comes, as best you can. And making that, it's like an intention, or a responsibility. It's not a task or a job. It's a thing that you can do for yourself to be there for other people.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Nathan, thank you for joining us today on Tank Talk. It was a pleasure having you and learning about your strategy and the tools in your arsenal. So you can all visit us at wealthbattle.com. This has been Tank Talk.
Budgeting in the free world. Explosions.